Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack. Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Welcome back, everybody, and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast. That is Brian Twining. I am Kyle Robert, your home. We are your home for NASCAR betting and DFS. Hope you had a nice week off. If you first somehow missed it, we did take advantage of the break and had Todd Furman join us to talk NASCAR betting, to talk bookmaking, and the three of us figured out a way to save NASCAR on TV and NASCAR in general. So we're still waiting for that check in the mail, Brian. Hopefully NASCAR's got that heading our way, but feels good to be back. Feels good to dive in. Obviously,
Yes,
we just got done listening to the betting preview show hosted by Derek Yoder, which should be part of your NASCAR rotation each and every week. But how are you?
I'm doing great, man. Like you said, the bye week was much needed, but also had me suffering from FOMO. I mean, it just Sunday was weird getting up and thinking, getting excited that it's Sunday and we got a race coming on in a couple hours out here on the West Coast. It's always hitting us in the afternoon, and then realizing obviously there is no race. So it's just kind of like a weird day, I guess. But it was good to step away from the grind a little bit.
It did mess up my normal rhythm, though, because I'm so used to hopping on Tuesday, starting to figure out the numbers.
Yeah.
Obviously, we chat Wednesday. We pay attention to practice and qualifying Friday, Saturday. There's a whole rhythm to each and every week. Obviously, culminating with the race. We take Monday just to kind of decompress and then back at it. But it was weird to step away. Took advantage of the time, obviously, but yeah, it feels good to be back. Although, based on what the odds are and kind of where both of our heads at, we've chatted a little bit. It is an interesting odds board, so maybe the bookmakers and everyone in general is just kind of figuring things out as well. Go ahead.
It's been like a few races in a row now where they've been exposed to some pretty massively long numbers on outrights hitting. So the books probably use that off week to maybe gather their own data and start saying oh shit, we need to start opening up a little bit shorter, to limit our exposure.
Just what we need. We finally get opportunities to hit decent numbers on Ryan Blaney and on Martin Truex, which both of us were on Truex. So that was really, really nice. Just squeezing us even more because as we talked about with Todd, we are below table tennis and other random sports. I'm sure the College World Series is getting more action than NASCAR.
Oh, definitely.
So that's fun. But, we're trying to grow the brand. We're trying to grow the sport. So that's what we're here for. But let's take a look at the early odds. I do have a few questions I want to chat with you about and see if I can find a couple bets that I'm interested in firing on, because at this point my betting card is blank, and that's very rare for me. And you're usually the one who's a lot more responsible heading into practice and qualifying. So let me share my screen, and we can take a look at what we got going on. So I want this one. So as you can see, I got Caesars, DraftKings, and Bet Rivers up. Obviously, we'll take a look at Barstool. We'll take a look at Caesars. If you see other odds in the market and you have questions or you want our input, always feel free to smash the like and drop your questions down in the comments. We're always trying to loop back before race day, so try and leave it for this show. Obviously, we'll be back on Saturday, record that, get you ready for and that's in your feed Sunday morning. Brian and I are always available on Twitter as well, so follow us over there.
Yes.
Always down to chat NASCAR, and there's some really, really smart people who will also give you their 2 cents over there. So make sure you're doing all of that. That being said, Kyle Larson is your favorite, 5.5, 6-1. Martin Truex right behind him. You get him as long as 7.5 to 1. Kyle Busch in the new car, 7.5. You can actually get him at 9 at Rivers, which feels like a really nice number if you like Kyle Busch.
Yeah.
Denny Hamlin, 7.5. We'll see how the Toyotas run this week. Chase Elliott is starting to drift ever closer to where he traditionally sits on the betting board, despite not winning, which I think is kind of interesting. Hendrick teammate William Byron, 8.5, and then we'll dive into the double digits as we keep it moving. So I guess initially, who was jumping out at you as we look at kind of the early numbers and the guys inside 10-1?
Well, I mean, I'll just start off by saying that after Sonoma, it became apparent to me that the first guy that I was potentially looking to attack this weekend in Nashville was going to be Martin Truex, but I understood fully that coming out of the bye week after what he did at that road course, his number was going to be far too short to hit it pre-practice and qualifying. And also, I think it's interesting to note that since I'm going there this weekend, I've been scouting out Vegas odds, and Truex has actually leapfrogged Kyle Larson as the favorite over at Circa, which is notorious for being a very sharp sports book where all the sharps like to bet. That being said, Kyle got a pretty ridiculous number on William Byron earlier in the year, but Truex is not somebody that qualifies well traditionally at any track. He hasn't put it on pole this year. He hasn't put it on pole in quite some time. He's, maybe a fifth or fourth place qualifier. And unless this dude fires off, a second faster than everybody else per lap, like this number is not going to go anywhere. I feel like for somebody like him, because I do like him this weekend, if he looks great in practice and qualifying again, I don't mind hitting him at that 7.5 number, but that's only after seeing him on the track.
But like worst case scenario with Truex at this point is he's what 5.5, 6-1 that's like absolute dominant
exactly
in practice and qualifying, and that number gets eaten up.
Yeah.
This is what he ended up going to at Sonoma after looking incredible in practice and qualifying. So if you like Truex, the best thing you can do is get that reassurance in practice and qualifying, and then maybe you're betting 5.5 instead of 6 or 6.5 instead of 7. But it's not like you're losing a 20, 25, 28-1.
Exactly.
And just getting absolutely slaughtered on movement. So I like that. And best case scenario, he's fine, qualifies 7th or 10th or 11th like Kyle Busch did. And all of a sudden his number goes from 7 to 10 or 12 or something even better. I will say I'm kind of unsure of how to approach this track. Obviously, Nashville's kind of its own beast. It's not really a 1.5 miles. It's not really a short track. It goes a little bit faster. Obviously, we're running on concrete. We got the resin. We'll see kind of what people can do in terms of passing. Yoder did point out that we do get 50 minutes of practice on Friday, which I think is going to be really nice for just seeing the long run speed. Obviously, short run speed is going to be critical at the end. I think we've seen the past couple of years that this track does get a little wild at times. So I wouldn't be shocked if we have a shorter, maybe even overtime run to decide who wins this race. Tires are going to be really, really important. We'll see how that works going into the week. But I guess in terms of as we keep rolling along, is there anything specific that you're taking note of or trying to figure out as we approach Nashville, which is it's its own animal at this point?
Yeah, like it's really hard to try to establish like comparable tracks or what we should be looking at. And I think if you're not listening to the NASCAR betting preview show, you're missing out on some great tidbits here. And one of the conversations they were having is that us getting to see this 50 minutes of practice, I think it was Rory Picks and Chris Wormy, they were talking about this. There is something to the fact that during this practice session, if you have drivers who are, maybe stopping to pit a handful of times, 2 or 3 times, they clearly like their cars. Whereas like we saw, I believe it was a couple weeks ago at Gateway, when guys were running like 2 laps and then having to go back in and make adjustments. And if you see certain drivers having to make frequent pit stops during this 50-lap session and constantly having to do tweaks, you already know that they're probably going to be a step behind than the guys who unloaded really nice and only have to make minor adjustments to add that, 10th of a second or, even half of a tenth on a lap to get towards the front. So I think like for me, yes, obviously I want to look at what happened in 2022. that was, the first year of the next gen car. Toyota had started to look better at that time, and they looked great during the race, but it was still HMS domination. So like I'm obviously looking at that, but coming out of the bye week, and to something Chris Wormy said on the show is that, and we were chatting about this prior to recording, from a week to week basis, we really don't have a great idea who's going to show up with what car based on what happened last year, because we are in a completely different animal in 2023.
Yeah. I will say a couple things on that. First, I think I will be looking for cars that maybe make a few adjustments early and then run laps and laps and laps after they get kind of where
Yes.
they want. And maybe they found something, they're like, oh, this is going to work. Obviously, we'll make a little tweaks to keep improving it. But, they find something, they make it work. All of a sudden, they're getting faster. That's going to be something that's going to pique my interest. And I will post down in the show notes, but the NASCAR betting preview show with Derek Yoder is on Twitter Spaces. So it's very cool, very interactive. So if you have questions, obviously you can show up. Hopefully from time to time, you'll hear our lovely voices on there, but it is also available in podcast form. And you can check it out after the fact too. So really good knowledge.
Yes.
Obviously just something, even if you throw it on a Saturday while you're doing yard work or whatever, get you prepped for the race. Lots of really, really smart minds are gravitating towards NASCAR and trying to get you all of the best information. So Brian, with that being said, let's keep it rolling. I'm with you. Truex looks interesting. I think Hamlin, if we're going to go with the Toyotas, I think makes a little bit of sense. I am curious to see with Kyle Busch, obviously his first year, not in that Toyota. What does that look like? Obviously, the Red Dog, not traditionally awesome here, but we'll see. We'll see what that looks like for him, and kind of combining cars and rides and whatnot. And that being said, are you interested in Chase Elliott, or obviously
No.
with one last year? Yeah, I don't know. Like Byron, I think I'd rather bet Byron, and maybe that's
Exactly.
silly.
And this is something that you and I have chatted about on numerous occasions the last couple of weeks, is that I brought this up. Chase Elliott is maybe the third best car in that garage right
Yeah.
now. I mean, it's Byron maybe 1A and Larson 1B. And in terms of what they've been able to consistently finish, I think it's got to be Byron is the number one guy right now in the Hendrick garage.
He's been the fastest. He's had the best pit crew all season long. And,
Yep.
we even talked a little bit. I don't remember if it was in the show prior to Furman or when we were chatting off mic, but Chase wasn't even really good at Sonoma. He just had a good strategy and was able to knock out a top 10, or top 5 rather. But overall, he still looked pretty bad. So as we dive into the 10-1 range, and I think this is a spot where you can start to get your attention peaked up a little bit, because all we're doing at this point is trying to get ahead of market movement.
Exactly.
So who do you think can look really good in practice and qualifying? Maybe, run really well, their number moves, you end up getting a much better price, and then you're happy to have a piece. And even if you're taking, like my normal bet is $20, let's put $10 on it now, come back again after practice and hit it again. If you want to do that route too, that's always a good way to go. But Ryan Blaney, you can get it 10-1. Ross Chastain is somebody I want to talk about, because obviously track history there. I am the Ross stan, so I'm not gonna, I always need a little bit of cold water dumped on me when I'm thinking about him. Obviously hasn't been winning, and we're talking about winning the race, but a good driver, fast car, has potential, has some track history. Trackhouse has been kind of iffy the past few weeks, maybe month. You can get 12-1 on him if he comes out and looks good and qualifies well. That number is going away, right? That's a guy who's 7, 8, 9-1. I mean, it's not going to move a ton, but
I don't see his number moving that much, to be honest with you, because even here last year when he was kind of, he had kind of established himself and he was running near the front all the time. He has like
Yeah.
the seventh best speed in practice, and then he qualified, I believe it was like eighth or something. So it's not like an amazing qualifying session that's going to have his number shooting down. And then when you look at his both qualifying runs here, it was like eighth last year and then 19th before we transition to the next gen car.
Yeah.
And then just traditionally, he's not a great qualifier. And hopefully the bye week helped reset his mind and we see that Ross Chastain aggression come back. But you run the risk of him throwing another stinker during practice and qualifying outside the top 10, and you're probably getting 14, 15-1 post.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it get north of 20 last week, or 2 weeks ago at Sonoma. So you're probably right.
On that point, for instance, so at Charlotte, he qualified 14th. He qualified outside the top 10. Gateway was 8th. The 2 races prior to that, Darlington and Kansas, he was 5th and 3rd, but that was like right before the whole incident happened with Kyle Larson. And, since then, he has not looked like the same guy.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting quandary for him because you want the aggression, but you don't want him to go overboard and end up wrecking people or ruining his own day. So he's still trying to figure out that happy middle, and he hasn't quite got there yet. I was looking at 11. It's already gone to 12. I think you're right. I think I need to be patient. See, at least give practice a run, because the worst thing that's going to happen is maybe he goes to 10 and he looks amazing and I can fire at that point and I'm not killing him.
And we know too, something with Chastain is that the Trackhouse pit crews are notorious for being really good.
Yeah.
So I feel like, again, even if he has a lower starting position, because he has that advantage on the pits, like he's better suited for moving through the field, gaining positions there than a lot of other drivers.
Yep. Blaney is interesting at 10-1. Obviously found a ton of speed once he got to Coke 600. He was even fine at Sonoma. He just ended up spinning out a couple too many times, and by the end he just could not make up the ground. So a frustrating performance, but had overall looked pretty good. I think he's interesting. Obviously you'd probably wish you could get like a 12 or a 14 on him, but 10-1 is fine. What about Chris Bell? We talked about the Toyotas. We talked about our excitement for Truex, even Hamlin a little bit. Is Bell somebody at 10, 12, as long as 13 that you're no interest?
No, he like, I feel like the books adjusted to his like weekly potential, and it's no longer a number that I feel confident in getting on pre-practice or qualifying. Now, if he's somebody during the race that clearly looks good, like I would rather go to him if it's available to you in the live market at like 6-1 if he's looking fantastic than to bet this 13 right now and run the risk of him looking like dog doo-doo.
Yep. I think it makes sense. I think if we're gonna keep moving, I think we should. There's a couple names coming up. We'll start with Tyler Reddick.
Oh yeah,
who is gonna be in the Kurt Busch 45. That was really good here. Was that last year? 2 years ago.
Both times.
Both
Kurt Busch top 10 both races here. The 45 at tracks, the 45 performed well last year. Like Reddick has shown up with speed. He disappointed last week at a road course, but who cares? Like that has no correlation to this race whatsoever. Outside of the brake problems and running into the wall himself, like this is a guy who, of the Toyotas, has shown plenty of speed to run up there near the front, inside the top 5. It was Rory Pix was pointing it out. Like he's a good number pre-practice and qualifying, because if he shows up with speed this weekend, this number will drop probably 10-1. And he's a guy that if you're getting almost double pre-practice, you got to jump on that.
Yeah, so the 45 qualified 19th last year, ended up finishing second, was 10th after stage 1, was 5th after stage 2. And then the year prior, when he was with Chip Ganassi, he qualified 8th. Or no, he qualified Wow, he qualified 30th. Ended up getting to first by the end of stage 1, so obviously can move, can get through the pack. Was top 10 after stage 2, and finished the race eighth. So that is interesting. I also have some interest in Joey Logano, and
I can't hate on that. So the one thing about Logano is that he just has this knack for finding a way to finish good. And if we're looking at pre-qualifying values, there hasn't been anybody better at the like fast 1.5s, like Las Vegas, for instance, where he looked like the best car and then just sank like a rock. So, I mean, obviously, I don't really have that much confidence that he can win the race in the long run. But I mean, if you're looking at value, I don't mind doing a small wager on Logano, especially somebody who finished second here or finished inside the top 10 last year, but qualified second.
Yeah.
And
so he qualifies second or
that
third.
again.
That number is bye-bye.
Yeah. I mean, again, we already said it. Like, we really don't know who's going to unload well, but if they've already done it at this track and showed up really fast, like I'm pretty sure they're going to come with a similar setup.
Yeah. What about your boy? You're wearing the hat today, the very, very sweet Busch Light hat. Going on his final escapade. It's Kevin Harvick. You can get him as long as 18-1.
Nope.
Any interest there? Nope.
Look, I'm rocking the KV hat just because the hat is sick, and you got to honor somebody as good as him going to the Hall of Fame as soon as he retires. But again, the race winning speed is not there. Now, if you want to throw down a small wager on, we'll look at placements, but maybe a top 5 or maybe top 4 or something, I don't mind it. But again, like, I got to see what he shows up with practice and qualifying, because when he shows up with speed, and this is something that Chris Wormy talked about early in the year when we had him on, when Harvick shows up with speed, he's going to be good on Sunday.
Yeah, he's very apparent early in the week.
Yes.
Yes, he's going to be great, or no, he's going to be terrible.
Yep.
The next range is really interesting. We have Bubba as long as 22. We have Alex Bowman, who I'm kind of interested in. I was telling Brian before the show, but rewatched the replays of both 21 and 22 to get a little feel for the track. Bowman was running all right, and then ended up having a major issue after about 50 laps last year. His tire came apart. It ripped the whole front fender off. So obviously never really got a chance to show his way. But Hendrick has been awesome at this track the last 2 years. Bowman's finally, he's starting to get back into his form after being out for a couple races with the concussion. You can get him as long as 30-1. I think, he is somebody that, even if he could qualify well, he's not going to go 7-1, 8-1, 10. But if he's 16-1 by Tyler Reddick, you're going to feel really good about having that 30-1 in your pocket. So I think he is somebody that, if you want to take a little bit advantage early, could make some sense. We have Ty Gibbs, we have Brad Kay, as long as 40-1. We have the Trackhouse teammate, mi amigo Daniel Suarez, as long as 55-1. Any of these names tickling your fancy?
I mean, honestly, to me, I feel like the only one that would present any sort of value would be a Bubba Wallace if you could get it a little bit longer. I mean, for instance, like on the offshore that we use, you can get a better number, and I feel comfortable going to the number I can get on the offshore. I just don't know if I can get there at 20 or 22 with Bubba.
No.
You're talking about a guy who has, what does he have, 2 or 3 career victories on his plate? But
so your buy price would be like 25. If we got to 25, 28.
Yeah, he should be in the range of Bowman for a victory, in my opinion. But in terms of value, you're talking about the driver who posted the best 10 and 15 lap averages. I think it was the second best 5-lap average and the third best 20-lap average during practice last year, and then qualified, I believe it was like just outside the top 10 or something of that nature, and finished, was it 12th last season or something? So you're talking about a guy who ran pretty well. I like him in the top 10 market if you can find it anything, close to even, because I hate that negative 120, 125 crap that they're posting now. But I mean, if he looks fast again, if he brings the same car that he brought last year, this number is going to go down to like 15. And, I for somebody that I don't necessarily think is really going to win the race, give me the extra 7, units or whatever, like betting points.
Yeah, and I think with Bowman or Bubba, like if you like them, maybe not from an outright perspective, but think they could have a strong race, grabbing them now, 4 top 10s, 4 top 5s, 4 matchups, 4 manufacturer, you're still getting the best of the number, because if that outright odds move, the other number is going to move accordingly. So I think that's a good call. And then beyond there, I think I don't know that I really want to take a shot on any of these guys. Stenhouse has kind of ran well, and if you're getting him at 100-1, he's having his best season by far. He's had some track history here where he's looked good. I'm not saying go bet on Ricky Stenhouse, but at 100-1,
but you're saying bet Ricky Stenhouse.
I'm not saying it either. So take that for whatever you want to.
I mean, I feel you on that, but when you're looking at just who has won this year, the only time we have gotten a non-elite driver to win a race this year,
and who was
the Daytona 500. It was the first epic race of the season when Ricky
who was
Stenhouse
that driver?
Won.
Ricky Stenhouse. That's who won the race.
I know, but it takes a ridiculous type of race like a super speedway for somebody that isn't the Kyle Larsons, the Martin Truex, the Chase Elliott's, the Denny Hamlins of that nature to win a race.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, like we're talking about it. We're gonna back off a little bit there, but there is a few options, and as we've talked, I've gotten my mind wrapped around a couple names, so we'll see what I end up putting on the card. I am going to look at the top 10 market over at Barstool. Obviously, Brian, if you see better numbers at BetMGM, you can do that. I got Caesars pulled up. We'll head over there and see if we can find any value as well. Top 10 market is interesting. Obviously, a lot of really short prices on a lot of guys we really like. Bubba is minus 110 over at Barstool, but Alex Bowman at plus 100. I think that is going to be my first bet, because talked up Bowman, talked up Hendrick at this track. Very excited about what his potential may be. And if you're giving me basically even money to top 10, I'm going to take it.
Yeah, I don't hate that. The one thing though, that the one that stands out to me, like the one I feel the most confident in, and I'm gonna smash again, is the Tyler Reddick top 10 number. It's minus 125 at Barstool, Bet Rivers, but at I believe it's BetMGM or Caesars, you can get him at minus 120. Outside of wrecking or just something happening to the car, like on traditional ovals this year, Reddick has looked fantastic since he's gotten, comfortable with the 2311 team. And he is running as a top 10 car pretty much every single week. So, I mean, you're getting close to even money on something that probably should be happening on a weekly basis if it wasn't for just some things that aren't under his control. So,
yeah.
When you're talking about value and implied results, Reddick to me fits the mold as somebody that is a top 10 lock almost every week if he just runs the race clean.
Yeah, no, I think that's completely fair. And with the history of the 45 and just kind of his in general, I think that makes a lot of sense. Looking at longer odds just to see if there's anything that tickles my fancy. Stenhouse, I feel like I need 3-1 to bet him at top 10. Almirola's got some good track history here, but it feels like a SHR has just been a dumpster fire all season long. I don't feel like going to that well yet. Yeah, Reddick's interesting. Bowman's interesting. Bubba's interesting. I think that's kind of it in terms of top 10s that I actually want to fire on, at least at this point.
Yeah, there again, like we talked about, there isn't a ton that is going to be on the cards this early in the week. Like for me, I only have 2 bets that I added, and they're both Red Dog. Like I got Red Dog on the outright at 18, and then I'm going to hit that top 10 minus 120 number.
Joey Logano, plus 230 to top 5.
Hey, if anybody is gonna like weasel his way into that finishing position, it's that SOB for sure.
Yeah. What is the number here? I really wish we could get the sites to coordinate just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just so that way, like, everything's listed similarly. But then I guess they don't want us spending time looking at other books. So Logano plus 190. What is he over here? Plus 230. Joey Logano, welcome to the betting card.
Gross.
Yeah, I'm just gonna.
Ooh.
But like, I don't know. I don't have an outright yet, and I have like a couple names kicking around, including Logano. And I'm just figuring out do I want to add a outright to the top 5, or do I want to sit with the top 5, have them qualify well, and then hate myself for not adding the outright?
Yeah, so that's like I've been doing some line shopping, and during the NASCAR betting preview show, one of the bets that Royer Picks gave out was one that I've been like tailing every single week for the last couple races, and that's Kyle Larson top 5. I mean, plus money on a guy who both times we've come here has looked fantastic is great. That said, he has absolutely shit the bed, on multiple occasions over the last few weeks, and it's hard to trust that he's going to do that. So for me, I feel like a way to attack that and still with the possibility of him finishing inside the top 5, or for instance, you go to the top 3 market, he's like plus 195 or plus 185. If he's finishing top 3, he's probably either winning or maybe finishing runner up to like a Toyota. So I'm going to hit him on the top Chevy market. I'm going to shop the number right now. Bet Rivers or Barstool, he's 3-1. So I just want to see like if I could get better number somewhere, but I feel like that's the best way to approach a Kyle Larson this week, especially if he unloads fast, like we've traditionally seen him do. And that's probably going to drop to 2-1 or 1.5-1.
Yeah, I like that. Obviously you worry about Byron or Chase beating him.
Yeah.
And we've talked about Larson a lot. He's having a very 2022 William Byron season where either he's like 35th or he wins the race. There's not a lot in between. So I think that's a good way, and I think you're getting a little value that way too. So I like that call.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you look at his top 3 market, again, 185 at Bet Rivers. So I mean, are you going to think that Chase Elliott and William Byron are going to finish in front of him and completely discount all the Toyotas? Like, that's probably not happening. And then, so you might as well just take the better number on the top Chevy.
I agree. I like that call. Speaking of that, let's go to manufacturer. So Denny Hamlin, top Toyota. Martin Truex. Tyler Reddick at 4-1 is kind of interesting. Feels like he should be a little longer given the.
I was just gonna say, like, that's the thing is like,
it's just hard to price it when there's so few drivers, but you have 4 guys that can legitimately win. Top Ford, Ryan Blaney, Kevin Harvick. Logano plus 275 as top Ford, I think, is interesting if you're on Joey Logano trade.
I would much rather, just for my sanity, take Kevin Harvick at plus 275.
But I'm thinking as I sit here, would you rather bet, if you're betting Joey Logano, let's establish that, because obviously you don't love him in general, but if you're betting him, would you rather bet him to top Ford at plus 275, or would you rather bet him top 5 at plus 230? Because it feels like the top Ford is the better bet, given our excitement for both Toyotas and the Hendrick.
Exactly. I was just going to say that because, on a week-to-week basis, in terms of like hierarchy this season, yes, you've had the spattering of good finishes by Penske recently, in particular with Ryan Blaney, but I feel like you got HMS, JGR, and then like Penske is like right there with 2311 in terms of speed. And then Trackhouse, if Chastain shows up, like you got him to contend with. And then you have to deal with Kyle Busch, who, yes, RCR is RCR and they're kind of a roller coaster this season, but that's a lot of guys that you would have to top in order to hit that top 5 market, whereas Logano could be the top Ford and finish 7th or 8th.
Yeah. And the only real concern I have in terms of somebody being better than him is really Ryan Blaney.
Yeah.
I don't know that I really think anybody else from Ford can win the race. So if I expect, a top 5-ish performance from Logano, maybe even top 3, getting him to top 4 at plus 275 feels like the way to do it. And then, as you mentioned, Larson at 3-1, top Chevy. Byron, I don't hate, but at that point, I'd rather bet Byron just to top 3 or win the race.
I was just gonna say, I like with Byron, I think you go more towards the placements or outright, just because the number is so inflated.
Yeah. What is his top 3 number? Yeah, plus 240. Yeah. Let's look at the featured matchups and see if we can't find any value. Ricky Stenhouse versus Daniel Suarez. Stenhouse at plus money, I don't hate, and he's been a lot more consistent this year than he ever has been, but he is still Ricky Stenhouse. So
that spin is somewhere.
Yeah. Bubba versus Ross. Byron versus Blaney. Logano at plus money versus Chris Bell. I kind of like.
Yeah, I don't hate that. You won't find me betting that though. I'll come out,
which makes me really actually happier about. To be honest.
Oh man.
He's your kryptonite. Whenever you're on him, he stinks, and whenever you go against him, he's better. So I'll happily take the.
All right, I'll make sure to lay down a 5 spot on Logano to win when I get to Vegas this weekend, just for you.
Jerk, you're such a jerk.
And I'll make sure I smash whatever I'm drinking if he does win. Like I'll just like break the bottle or the can, whatever.
Yeah. Other options.
All right, so the first matchup I want to hit is Chris Buescher over Brad Keselowski. Very similar cars, very similar, equipment. Buescher ran here really well last year, and Keselowski is again my arch nemesis. So I got to go with Buescher.
What are you gonna do when like Brad K retires and Joey Logano retires? Like we're gonna have to find new nemesis for you.
I'm just gonna like everybody. That's just what's gonna happen. Like I'm not gonna have anybody.
My guess is that's not what's gonna happen. We'll find somebody to gravitate towards. But yeah, I do think that will be interesting, and I think it's gonna happen.
I'm just gonna become much more level-headed with my NASCAR betting when that happens.
Also, something I do not foresee happening in the near future. Tyler Reddick minus 118 versus Kevin Harvick. I feel like Harvick's a lot safer, and Reddick's outcomes obviously higher but lower. So I don't know that that's a very interesting bet.
I mean, I feel like again, like if we're talking about safeness, I would definitely go Kevin Harvick. I feel like he would be less likely to run into issues or get wrecked.
Let's see. Any interesting? So we have Keselowski versus Suarez, Hamlin versus Ross, Logano versus Harvick. Logano getting minus 110 versus Harvick. I like more than Tyler Reddick. Chris Bell versus Ryan Blaney, Almirola versus Briscoe. Battle of the SHRs. Battle of the Austins is always a fun one.
Again.
Byron plus 100 versus Truex is interesting. Obviously, we hit Truex. Obviously, he's a driver that's gotten back to his original form. But Byron's been so money all year long.
Oh, he's been great.
It's hard to fade him, and like when he doesn't perform well, he's like 7th, like that. Like he's been just a top 5 machine. So I'm gonna take Byron over Truex at even money. If this was minus 115 or minus 110, I would probably be out. But the fact that it's plus 100, I can't help myself.
I don't
I have a lot more
dislike
bets
that.
than I thought I would at this point. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, there you go. We talked about and talked you into wagers.
Always finagle me into it. Uh, nice race boost here. Just doing a little line shopping to figure
I
out.
don't hate the Chase Elliott boost to plus 950.
Yeah, like I'd much rather be in on that. Chase Elliott to win at plus 950. Harvick and Keselowski to each top
Absolutely
10.
not.
Yeah, that doesn't feel very good.
Well, Harvick is like a fringe top 10 guy. And Keselowski, I mean, is he going to stay on track, or is he like, what car is going to show up?
I'd rather just bet Brad at plus 140, the little extra juice to top 10.
Even that, though, I don't even know if I could get there with him.
Yeah, that's probably fair. He'd probably be like plus 240. Yeah, no, I think that's it. So in terms of outrights, Brian, are we gonna sit with Tyler Reddick? Is that what your plan is?
Yeah, I think that's the only guy that I'm.
Reddick, Reddick's 18 at Barstool. So if you want the bet, is that the number you added?
Yeah, so that's a number I'm adding. I mean, there are a few guys that I liked prior to even seeing these lines drop, and that was Truex, Denny. I mean, obviously Larson, and then I do think that there's some value on Blaney, potentially sneaking in here and unloading really good again. But no way am I betting 10-1 when we don't know what Penske car is going to show up.
Yeah.
Like if they look like shit, you're getting 14 or down to 22-1 like we got at Charlotte.
Yeah, so for me, I want to bet Ross, I think, but I'm gonna be patient and see how he looks in practice and qualifying. Worst case scenario, I'm betting maybe 8 or 9-1. Best case scenario, I'm betting like 15-20. So I'm gonna wait on that. I did add Logano at 18 just because I can't help myself. I like the red dog number. He's also really interesting. Bowman.
One more guy that I do think is going a little underappreciated this week for potential pre-practice qualifying. It's got to be William Byron. Like we talk about this every single week that he should be priced around Kyle Larson just with what he's been able to put on track on a more consistent basis. But the books continue to drop these numbers, knowing that most people are probably going to wait a little bit because he doesn't have like the equity built up in the community yet.
So best number you can get is 850. He comes out.
We talked about it. We would bet him over Chase Elliott.
He qualifies first. His number is plus 650.
Yeah, he's probably like around 6.5.
Okay.
But that's what I mean. Like he should be priced with Larson.
Yeah, I think he should be at least where Hamlin is, around 7. But I'm happy they gave us a little extra candy. I'm gonna wait on him. I mean, I'll regret it, but I'm gonna wait. That's my other thing too, is I'm trying to figure out my whole card throughout the weekend.
Yeah.
And I don't.
Yeah,
I don't
you're trying to tell your story.
I don't want to overextend myself at this point and then come back on Saturday when we chat and there's all these numbers that I love and I don't want to add 50 more outrights. So
yeah,
Reddick is the one I can't decide on. I need to make a decision on. But
yeah, and on William Byron, before we even leave him, he's led laps in 6 of the last 7 races. He's qualified 8th or better at in 9 of the 10 regular ovals we've run this year, outside of Daytona, and whatever. And then like he's finished inside the top 5 in 4 of the previous 6 races. 4 of the previous 5 when you remove Sonoma. This guy has been the most consistent driver on the season. So I mean, again, I almost feel like the books are still discounting how good he's been.
William Byron, welcome to the outright
no.
betting card. I don't need my arm twisted. I love William Byron. He's been so good to me this year.
Yeah.
Obviously, Vegas had him at Phoenix. Been a top 5 machine. I don't like being this involved this early, but when you give me a sell job, I'm gonna take it. Question is, do I want to supplement with the plus 130 to top 5, or should I just take the outright and then come back assuming he looks good? Because plus 130 is the best number we're getting right now. Otherwise, I'm looking at probably minus 110.
Yeah. No, so if he unloads the way that he normally does at like similar size and I guess like speed type tracks, he's probably qualifying on the front 2 rows, and that number is getting shortened, and his top 5 number for sure is getting smashed.
So if you wonder why my betting card, despite having 0 bets on it, coming into the week, is more extended than anyone ever imagined it would be, you can thank my co-host for that.
Hey, you started it by taking the plus money on Byron over Truex.
No, it's very true. And honestly, for me, for what I normally have at this point, this is understated, so I'm pretty happy. All right, you ready to review the card, give the people our favorite bet at this point, and get out of here?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, I guess I could just do this. Actually, let's pull this down and we'll go through it. Boom. So Joey Logano 18-1 for a half a unit. William Byron at 850 per unit and a half. Not having Tyler Reddick on this card might be the dumb decision I made, but I'm going to let the week play out. I don't want to overextend myself. Ross Chastain is high on my priority list to potentially add. We'll see what the rest of the numbers do. There's some guys like Martin Truex, like Denny Hamlin, that if I get a better number after qualifying, may get the ad as well. I'm trying not to go too crazy in the outright mark, especially at this track where it's so weird. And, we've only run it a couple times. There's not a lot of track comps, only once with the new car. Like, there's a lot to think about. So, William Byron top 5 at plus 130. Thanks, Brian. Joey Logano, I went top Ford at plus 275. Hendrick Motorsports, Alex Bowman, top 10 at even money. I went Joey Logano over Chris Bell at plus 100. And William Byron over Marty Party over at Caesars, also plus 100. Plus money on all my bets. I'm not going to complain. Brian has Reddick at 18-1. He has Reddick to top 10. He has Larson as the top Chevy at 3-1, which I really like, although William Byron's going to win the race. So Brian is going to be very disappointed when he gets
It's okay. That Larson play is all value.
And then he's going Buescher over Keselowski in the battle for RFK. Brian Twining, as we sit here Wednesday evening, what is your favorite bet on the betting board?
Well, I'm gonna pick on him this week, but I'm gonna go with Chris Buescher over Brad Keselowski. I just think in terms of what they showed last year, and then kind of without removing any issues on track, I think Buescher's been a little bit better than what Keselowski has shown on a consistency basis.
I like it. I think it makes sense. I too am going to go with the head-to-head market. We are going to go with the consistent driver against the guy that I really appreciate for paying me out last week. But I'm going to fade you just a slight this week. You can still finish top 5 as long as it's not in front of my guy, Willie B. Byron. I am going to go with 2 units.
Bro, I thought you were gonna put a zero
Yeah, I
behind
was
that
gonna put a
one.
big number, and I was like, you know what? We had a great week. Let's not ruin that with bad takes at this point. If I come back and I love it and it's minus 120, maybe I'll double down at that point. But for right
Yeah.
now, I'm really happy with where my card is at. I don't feel overexposed. I don't feel like I'm doing too much. Once again, thanks everybody who has made it this far. If you are enjoying the content, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It does nothing to involve you. It helps us get our content out to more people. We really appreciate you doing that. Also, hit the thumbs up if you have not yet done so. We get a good amount of you watching each and every week, and the thumbs ups don't always match. So if you're here and you're here for more than like 5 minutes, hit that thumbs up. Just 2 seconds for you does a lot for us. And then, as always, let us know down in the comments, who are you betting this week? Who do you like? What questions do you have? Who do you want more information on? Always leave that stuff down there. We always try and loop back. And anything we don't have, Brian and I love to dig into NASCAR data
Yes.
and ask our smart friends. So we can always get you some interesting results for that as well. Follow us over on Twitter. Follow us on Instagram if you have not done that, if you're over on that platform. For Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert. Enjoy the rest of your week. Don't forget, Friday, we have 50-minute practice. We have qualifying on Saturday. We also have trucks, Xfinity, and Cup cars all weekend long at
Gonna be great.
Nashville. So try and catch a little bit of it, even if you don't watch the whole race, just to get a vibe for the track, how it's
Yep.
playing, and you can use that as you kind of figure out how you want to bet Sunday's race. For Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert. We'll talk to you next time.